In Geneva, United States and Ukrainian envoys have finished a day of talks on President Donald Trump's 28-point plan for ending Russia's war in Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was optimistic about the process, saying today's negotiations had been the most productive to date. While he wouldn't be drawn on details due to the ongoing nature of the talks, he said that they had made, quote, substantial progress. He added that they wanted to complete the proposal as soon as possible to prevent the further loss of life. Let's have a listen to some more of what Secretary Rubio had to say.
We arrived here today with one goal, and the goal was to take, is 28 points or 26 points, depending on which version as it continued to evolve, and try to narrow the ones that were open items. And we have achieved that today in a very substantial way. Now, obviously, like any final agreement, they'll have to be agreed upon by the presidents, and there are a couple issues that we need to continue to work on. But I think the report today is that I think today was worthwhile. It was it is probably the most productive day we have had on this issue.
And for some analysis, let's go straight to Washington and bring in DW's Misha Komadovsky. Misha, we heard Rubio there hailing progress. Do we know how flexible the U.S. is in renegotiating this 28-point plan?
Well, Gerhard, he said that both sides have been working from a foundational document, a draft peace proposal with, he said, 26 to 28 points, and we should pay close attention to details here. He said 26 to 28 points, and Secretary Rubio said that the goal today was essentially to shrink the list of unresolved issues, and they made major progress, according to him, and some points still need work, especially those involving Europe, involving NATO and the European Union, and nothing is final until the presidents sign off. He wouldn't discuss details, as you said, like territory or military limits, saying the document is still changing, but he stressed he's very optimistic about a deal. Rubio also noted that once the US and Ukraine align, the proposal will still need to be presented to Russia, since Moscow must agree for any plan to work.
Now, the talks in Geneva have now concluded. Do we know when and where further discussions will take place?
Not yet, but Rubio said that the work will continue tomorrow and that they don't need to be in the same room in Geneva to finalize the talks. He wants the agreement done as soon as possible, ideally by Thursday, by Thanksgiving. It would be a symbolic move for the Trump administration. And also he added that the progress made today puts them closer than ever.
Now, earlier, President Trump had slammed Ukraine, saying they expressed zero gratitude for U.S. efforts. Do we know what's led to this outburst?
Yes, you're right. President Trump said that he inherited the war in Ukraine from Biden, even though the war was already ongoing during his first term. And today he didn't criticize Russia in his post. He criticized Ukraine, saying its leaders aren't grateful. And I've covered every Trump-Zelensky meeting here in Washington, including the Oval Office one, that notorious one that turned into a verbal standoff between officials. And the Ukrainian side, I have to say, has always opened with thanks. Rubio, though, says that after the Geneva talks, President Trump is quite pleased at the reports they've given him after after those talks concluded.
DW's Misha Komadovsky there reporting from Washington. Thank you, Misha. And earlier I also spoke to Gabrielius Landsbergis, the former foreign minister of Lithuania and currently a visiting fellow at Stanford University in the US. Landsbergis had written on X that, quote, there is a glaringly obvious message for Europe in this 28-point plan. This is the end of the end. I asked him what he meant by that.
Well, in many cases, throughout this year, whenever something would come up in Washington, like a proposal to meet Zelensky in Oval Room or to meet Putin in Alaska, Europeans were trying to portray that this is not about us, not about the Europe, not about the European continent. It's like we are bystanders of the whole process. I think that we should say that it's enough of that, that it is about us, it is about our security, and if the United States is choosing not to support Ukraine in this, and actually almost it seems as if they are choosing to support Russia, it's about European security, and Europe has to have a say in this. not to be in a beggar's position, but to be a proud continent that can deliver security to its allies and itself.
But can it really without the US?
Well, it has to. Unfortunately, there is no other way. If Ukraine, a country of 40 million, has been able to push back on Russia's assault and stand firm for almost 4 years, so it is very difficult to imagine that a continent of 450 million people, one of the richest places in the whole world, would not be able in 4 years to figure things out how to do that. I'm not saying that we should be breaking our ties with the United States, but if the United States chooses not to stand with us, we have to be ready to stand on our own.
Okay, what would that look like? What would an alternative plan look like?
Well, first of all, it has to come from European strength, and Europe does have a leverage. Just take one simple fact that there are more than 190 billion euros worth of frozen Russian assets held in the European banks. And I'm stressing European because it's, even though it's in Belgium, it's still very much part of Europe. If we were to use those funds to support Ukraine, I think that the whole negotiation or so-called negotiations between the Americans and the Russians would lose much of its energy. Because Europe would have a very big say in this. We are going to support Ukraine. We want Ukraine to win. We don't want Russia to win. And if somebody else has a negotiation, that's all okay, but we are not taking part in it, at least at this stage. If we don't do that, well, unfortunately, then we have to beg for a place at somebody else's table.
Now, if we're looking at the fact that this 28-point plan was allegedly negotiated behind both Europe's and Ukraine's back, only between Russia and the US, what tells us that about this plan?
Well, I mean, the plan as such is really horrible. It is a reminiscent of pacts of the Second World War, or after the Second World War, that divided Europe among the great powers, that draw the artificial new lines that left free countries and free people at the mercy of the dictators. And my country has been a victim of one of those plans that was agreed in Yalta. And we made a promise to Europe that Europe will never see this sort of thing again after the Berlin Wall fell. So it is really scary to think that if we bring back these plans again into European continent, is it only Ukraine that is going to suffer, or of these plans will be devised for the Baltics, for Poland, or who knows where those plans can stop. But at this, I would repeat what I said previously, that what we're paying a lot of attention to something that has not been written by Europeans for Europeans, and we need to change that.
Now, the US has consistently said that Ukraine needs to make concessions to achieve peace with Russia. What is in this plan that could reasonably be asked from Ukraine?
Well, I mean, even though it pains my heart to hear Ukrainians saying that they agree to certain concessions, but we have to be reminded that President Zelensky really, even for the last half a year, he said that they are ready to negotiate on a current contact line as a start for negotiations. I'd like to stress that it really pains, because it is a reminiscent of, again, the same Second World War themes where Czechoslovakia was forced to give away its land because people thought that giving away part of territory will bring peace. So there is a connotation, the same connotation. But if Ukrainians are forced to agree on this, and they say that, so I believe that they are ready. But I don't think that Putin is ready. Honestly, he believes that he's in a good momentum. He believes that he has United States closer to their position, which gives them opportunity to legitimize their continuous action.
The former Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis, thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us.